Hello everyone, welcome. About a year ago, I made a video where I was frogging a hat. And I mentioned as I was frogging the hat that I was making the hat for a particular purpose at work. So I've had some developments regarding the hat since then, and I figured I'd update you guys on it. So about a year ago, I was put into a position at work where I needed to listen to a radio. And it was very, very difficult for me to do. One, because I had to juggle both a radio and a laptop at the same time, and I only had two hands, and I needed my hands to do other things as well. And since the radio didn't have a clip, I didn't have a good way to hold it. I mean, I had pockets on my pants. I've learned I need pockets when I'm at work. So I could put the radio into my pocket. But my pockets were down by my waist, and I needed to hear the radio through my ear, which that's a good 2 feet difference. And I also work in a very, very noisy warehouse, and they were having me go into a place that was more noisy than the rest of the warehouse. So I already knew, even for a normal person, that would be a difficult scenario. But as someone who has an auditory processing disorder, it's that's not going to work. I need to find a way to make this work for me. So the idea I came up with was a radio hat. So this is the radio hat. I adapted a children's pattern book. A pattern from a children's book to fit me. And instead of doing the ear flaps that the pattern called for, I made a little radio pocket here. So the radio pocket is right over my left ear, which I know if I'm going to have a noise blaring into my ear, it's a lot less likely to derail my train of thought if it's coming through my left ear than my right ear. And I thought this would be cool to try. This would be cool to work. So in a strange twist of fate, once I made the hat, I wasn't put into that position again. In fact, I didn't need to use a radio for myself until about 2 weeks ago when I got promoted. I got sent to a new department at work. And, but even regardless of what department I was going to be sent to, the people at my level now, communicate through the laptop and through the radio. And I knew that that was going to be the hardest part for me, simply because as someone with an auditory processing disorder, it's basically the hearing version of dyslexia. So someone says something, and somewhere between them saying it and my brain processing it, something gets derailed. And so my mind interprets it as gibberish. And when it comes to a loud place, usually my main method is lip reading other people, which, as you can imagine, during the pandemic did not go well. But a radio, when someone's speaking on a radio, there's no screen, you can't see them. So I figured okay, I can finally try out this hat, see how this hat works, right? And I found out on my second day there in my new role that the hat was not going to work. For a simple thing that I kind of knew in the back of my head, but I didn't really think about. And that's how a lot of these things go, yeah? You have the idea in your head, but you don't really know until you try it out. So radios are heavy. The whole radio was heavier than the hat. And so the radio fit. But when I put something in, there was nothing to really counteract the weight on the other side. And so the radio went like this. And I don't know if you can see, but it just covered my eye. And granted, I was doing this when I was wearing glasses. But even with wearing glasses, it was covering my eyes. So I had it like this for like 5 minutes when it's like, nope, this isn't going to work. I'm going to have to workshop this. Now, ironically, if I made the ear flaps that this pattern had called for, that might have worked because I could have just tied the ear flaps and it might have made it work better. But that's not the route I decided to go. As much as I love crafting things, sometimes a person just has to acknowledge that even though crafting is the fun solution, crafting is not the efficient or easy solution. And I ended up pursuing a non-crafting solution for this. So I've seen other people in my position have like a little headset clip. It kind of looks like what you would see on a cop radio, where it had like a bungee cord, like a spirally telephone cord that connects it to the radio. So I could keep the radio like in the vest pocket here, but it brings the speaker up to here, which means it's a lot easier for me to hear. Now, granted, I do have to turn up the radio really loud, and it still kind of sets off the auditory processing disorder because there's a sensory component to it as well, where if a noise gets too loud, I can physically feel the sound waves through the air, and I go through the equivalent of a depressive episode, except there's a physical cause, this stupid sound wave. So it's a lot of maneuvering, like, how can I hear this versus how do I prevent a sensory overload? But I'm working that part out right now, but at least I figured out the problem of getting the sound. Like, I got it within a day. I figured out in my company how to request equipment and how to get that equipment so I could make my life easier and therefore make my new department's life easier by being a more effective member of that team. And it's like, as fun as continuing to craft on this hat may have been, if I had gone that route, it would have felt very similar to the logic of a 5-minute craft video. Like, in case you haven't watched a 5-minute craft video, they often propose a lot of hacks to get through life. And sometimes it isn't a crafting hack. It's just a simple, like, oh, this is more about cleaning stuff. Or like, this is a solution for a problem literally no one has complained about. And the solution you have for the problem is worse than the problem itself. Like, in particular, I'm thinking of a video where their socks got wet. So in order to waterproof their socks, they just covered the thing in duct tape. And it's like, just invest in waterproof boots. And literally if you're going on a hike, there's a reason why you're wearing boots. But yeah, what almost kills me about this is the fact that it took me nearly a year to find out it didn't work. And it's like, okay. It almost makes it worse. I had to wait so long. But anyway, that was today's story about the failed experiment that was Radio Hat. And that was today's entertainment. Have a nice day.